Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in, guys. Sergeant Moose here, back with another The Texas Chainsaw Massacre update. And today, guys, we have the new patch notes coming in for tomorrow's patch on October 22nd. It includes grapple reworks, the new gas station storm variant, lots of cosmetics, and bug fixes coming in. So, without further ado, guys, let's jump into it. Alright guys, so coming in tomorrow's patch, man, on October 22nd, we have a lot of interesting stuff. Of course, one of the biggest issues that I've seen in the game right now is the Xbox crashing issue. Now, I don't even play on Xbox, guys, but this was frustrating me a little bit. Not so much because of the crashing itself, but just because how long it took for this to be fixed. You know, whenever they said they were moving to the monthly cadence, they did mention that if they needed any emergency hot fixes, they would implement them. Unfortunately, this must have been a little bit bigger than what they expected because it was not implemented before, but you know, I guess better late than never. So you know, a lot of you Xbox folks that were, you know, putting the game down for a while until it was fixed, it should be tomorrow. But let's look into the introduction here, guys. It says grapple reworks, the gas station storm, and bug fixes are featured in the upcoming patch, which is tomorrow, October 22nd, and the patch is expected to roll out at 8 a.m. Eastern time as per usual. It's going to include the release of the new map variant, of course, the storm gas station, the Maria outfit pack number 1, the hands suspenders outfit in the Halloween Rush Week pack, which of course I'm sure you guys have seen all of this teased recently in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre socials. It's also on my community wall if you haven't on YouTube. It does say, as a reminder, the towel and laundry day cosmetics in Rush Week are moving to a paid DLC of $1.99 each. So if you guys remember when Rush Week was released back in late September, they did say that the towel and the laundry day cosmetics would be free, but only for a limited time. So if you had played Rush Week, even still, if you were to jump on Rush Week for the first time today, you will get these outfits free for life. But if you don't get on Rush Week by at least today or log in, you will have to pay to get these two outfits down the road after tomorrow's patch. So of course, one of the biggest topics over the past month, guys, have been close encounters. They have been reworked. We have a whole video up on that, too, if you want to check out how that rework's going to work. But each character will now have a grappling value assigned to them to determine their effectiveness in a close encounter. And again, this is going to change, you know, the grappling instances from pretty much every family or victim member in the game. Also, we have the new custom private match toggles, guys. This is one thing they talked about in their Q&A stream they just did very, very recently. Of course, you know, I'm not going to get too much into detail, but of course, you know, it was kind of not the greatest stream if you're a Texas fan, but there were some little snippets of some good stuff, and this is one of them. So, you know, a lot of folks have been wanting to have a more, you know, hardcore mode, game mode within this game, kind of make it feel like it did back in the tech test or when the game first came out. There will now be private match toggles, so you can toggle the victim health to where the victims will have half or default or double health. Same with family damage, half, default, or double. Character abilities, you can enable or disable the character abilities. I'm assuming this is for both sides. The character perks, you can enable or disable them as well, and the HUD toggle, enable or disable that. So I think it'll be really cool, guys. I think I'm going to, you know, play a lot of private matches now. That's something I haven't done in the past because I would love to experience this game. Even me as a family man, I would love to experience this as a victim, you know, going around with maybe half health and the family has double damage, you know, no HUD. You got to stay away from them. You got to be sneaky, stealthy, and if you escape, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be a big deal escaping. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think it's going to bring a lot of the tension back and a kind of a lot of what we know from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. I think it's going to bring a little bit more of that to the game instead of this, you know, crazy meta rushing from both sides type thing that, you know, we have, as the community, have created. Also, we have some tuning to the Rush Week. Interesting to see how this is going to work. Johnny now, guys, will not kill in 2 hits. It will now take him 3 hits to kill a victim. Not sure how I feel about that. I kind of like the, you know, the how strong and how tough Johnny was in Rush Week, being that it is a 1 versus 6. He was sort of an imposing character. You wanted to stay away from him. You did not want to get hit by him. Now, I mean, 3 hits is still not a lot, but we'll see how that changes in the future. But yes, Johnny, 3 hits now instead of 2. Also, Johnny will now be able to lockpick doors faster. His proficiency has been increased, and Johnny's stun time from door slams has now been decreased as well. They thought it was a little bit long, especially with how many doors are actually in the Rush Week map itself. The stun duration has been decreased for him. Also, the attic pole spawns. This has been another issue with Rush Week. Within a few seconds of starting the match, before Johnny could even make it in the house, sometimes victims were already getting out the attic. This obviously was an issue, so they've updated the amount of spawn locations for the attic pole. The attic pole will now spawn farther away from the sorority girls, so I'm assuming they either decreased the spawn spots of the attic pole, or they added more but moved them further away from the girls. So there's going to be a good chance wherever you spawn in the map, the attic pole should be further away from you. So it's going to take you a little time to be able to obtain that pole, and Johnny will already be in the house by the time you get out. I'm assuming that's the plan here. Also, the sorority girls vent damage, ladies and gentlemen. So as you guys know, there's a few vents on the Rush Week house. If you go into the vent, you'll end up in another location in the house, and you'll also take damage. This is no more, guys. No more damage will be taken from taking the vents as the girls. So you can take them as many times as you want in the match, obviously, until Johnny gets you and kills you, but you will not take any damage from the vent itself. Now, in my personal opinion, guys, the biggest issue, the biggest bug fix coming in this patch right now is the Xbox Series X and S crashes. This has been a massive issue plaguing the game. Of course, we know the game has just been taken off Game Pass not too long ago, and not only was it taken off Game Pass, which was, a hit to some Xbox players, but then their game started crashing. So this became a serious issue from the Xbox side and pretty much took one whole platform off the board with this game. So hopefully they can recover from this. I'm sure they will, but this should fix some of the crashes within the Xbox Series X and S. Also, guys, as we remember, the Grandpa Perks activation for levels for Grandpa Perks has been fixed and will activate at the correct family bond level. So whenever we got this Grandpa rework, guys, they had specific, slots or levels that perks would be implemented into. And, they decided to fine-tune that, and they actually changed some of the levels for the perks. They changed that in a later patch. Well, with this new Rush Week patch, it got reverted accidentally back to the original Grandpa rework levels, and now that has been changed back to normal again. So the updated version, if you think of, suffocating grip, will now be level 1 again instead of level 2. That's how it's intended, but it got pushed back to level 2. Now it should be back to level 1, just for one example. Now for blood trails, guys, another huge issue that was, plaguing the game for quite some time. We fixed an issue where blood trails were no longer showing up for either victim or family members. So, again, guys, if you're, one of those family members that are looking for blood trails to find victims, this may have been a bit frustrating in the past because sometimes they simply would not be there. Base game door and gate inconsistencies, guys. We have fixed a bug that caused family members to not properly open doors and gates. This is one of my biggest issues in the game since Rush Week, was the door and gates issue. So, of course, if you guys know, if you play family or victim, there would be, a slight delay whenever you would go to open doors, or sometimes you'd have to try to open them multiple times. You could not get the door open. This was causing a major issue, especially if you were in a chase from somebody, they went through the door and closed it, they could get some serious distance on you just because you'd be stuck behind the door trying to get it open for a few seconds whenever it should just immediately open. So this is a big change also in my opinion. Great for quality of life, of course, of the game for both sides. Also, for the base game Clear Eyes, electric traps set by hands that were disabled or triggered were not highlighting for victims with Clear Eyes. This is obviously the victim trap perk that should also be used if they're playing against hands. It should be able to be seen with the traps too. This has been fixed as well to be consistent with Nancy and Hitchhiker. Also, we have a fast hands fix coming in, guys. This has been another big issue on the victim side. Fast hands was not proccing correctly in a lot of situations. This has now been fixed as well. Also, victim endurance. We have once again, as they say, fixed an issue where victim endurance stat did not feel noticeably different for players. Victims' total stamina capacity, stamina drain, and regeneration will now scale properly as players allocate more points into endurance. So as we know, stamina for victim was broken once again. This has been an issue with the game several times. In certain patches, they would somehow break the stamina a lot of times for victims, but this has again been fixed. Also, another huge one coming in, guys. Hallelujah to the cook mains out there. Cooks tagging dead bodies. Now, we were under the impression that this was happening because of certain executions that you would equip on the cook, especially the new ones from the execution packs, which this was the issue. But this has been fixed, so there'd be a lot of frustrating times where, you'd be down to the final victim, and you'd be trying to get a mark on him as cook, but you'd end up marking that dead body because, you're getting his reading is, pushing toward a dead body, and you're getting that dead body marked, and it's really hard to tag some of the victims that are still alive because you're sitting there tagging dead victims. Well, that's going to be changed as well. Also, guys, we have an exploit. A well-known exploit being fixed. It is the close encounter door interruption. We have resolved an issue where the close encounter animation would cancel out if a family member opened or closed a nearby door. Player can now engage in a close encounter near a door without its interaction. So, if you would go and grapple a family member by a door or in a doorway, the family member could interact with that door while in the close encounter, and it could cancel out the animation of this close encounter, which would give the family a huge advantage over you whenever they cancel this out, and it's good to see that is being changed as well. Now we have another one coming in too, guys. Hitchhiker and traps and windows. Another huge issue that has been taken advantage of in the game from the start. Now, me as a partial hitchhiker main, pertains to family house, and pretty much any window in the game, really, if you're setting a trap in front of the window. But mainly family house, a lot of you will kind of recognize this. If you're a hitchhiker and you put a trap on the inside of the window. Now, me, myself, I'm an outside the window type guy with the traps, but you could put the trap on the inside of the window. If you put it close enough to the inside of the window, the victim could hit the trap and break the window and take double damage from the trap and the window and still not go out the window, which was a huge issue. You're only supposed to be taking that window damage if you're actually going out the window and hitting the ground. This is what's being changed with the hitchhiker's traps. You're no longer going to get stuck in that window in the trap and take that damage from everything, and then a family member just comes and one-shots you out of the trap. You will now not take that damage from the window until you exit that window. So that's a very good change here for those of you hitchhikers that like to put your traps on the inside of the window. Now we have coming in, guys, rough cut thrust. There's been issues with rough cut since launch of this game, man. I love the perk. I just wish it worked correctly. This seems to be a step in the right direction. So when you would thrust a victim, which is, Leatherface's chainsaw through the crack, whatever they're going through, rough cut would not proc in that situation too. This has been fixed. Now whenever you thrust a victim in a crack, rough cut will now proc. Next, guys, we have noise indicators following victims. An issue has been fixed where noise indicators would follow victims after they've opened a sliding door. This is an issue. This is not supposed to be happening when you're opening sliding doors. Now, other instances, yes, noise indicators are supposed to be following you, but sliding doors are not. This has been changed. Also, we have exterior alarms, noise, virtual effects. We have resolved an issue where sliding doors wouldn't produce virtual effects for victims if the Grandpa perk exterior alarms was active. Sliding doors will now produce noise. So if exterior alarms was active previously, guys, and you opened a sliding door, there was no noise coming from that door. That has been changed. Also, stabbing Grandpa prompt has been changed. We have fixed an issue where the prompt for victims to stab Grandpa wouldn't populate from certain angles and distances. Stabbing Grandpa will now feel more consistent for players. This is another great change as well, man. When you're running in there, you got your stab going on, and you hear a Leatherface coming at you, you're very low on health, your family members coming at you, you just want to get that stab in, you would have to stand there and position yourself properly at the perfect spot. You'd have to make sure all the planets were aligned perfectly to finally get that stab in, and sometimes it would take too long to be able to get that prompt for that stab that you would get killed just standing there trying to get that stabbed in. So, stabbing Grandpa now should feel a little more consistent, a little more fluid whenever you're running up to stab him. You just run up, get your stab in, and you're on your way. So hopefully that's the way it's going to be, Hopefully that's the way it's going to look. But guys, we also have numerous collision bugs that I'm not going to go through each and every one of these. Lighting issues for certain maps. I didn't see anything that's like really stuck out in terms of lighting that I really want to talk about, but you guys can go through. I'll link this down in the description if you want to see some of that. Also, we have for Rush Week, we can now anonymize player names in Rush Week. So it says the anonymized player names option would show all players in a Rush Week lobby who was Johnny. Players with anonymized player names turned off will now see a question mark for everyone in the lobby. Also, guys, one more thing I'm going to talk about, too, is the fuse box for Rush Week, and this is pretty big. So when Johnny turns off the fuse box, the sorority girls were still able to make phone calls to the police. So if you guys remember, in the Rush Week, if you would go as Johnny and try to turn off the fuse box, it would basically just do nothing. You could turn it off, but, you know, the phone would still work. So there was really no point in having that. So they had just taken the option out of the game to turn off the fuse box. Now, to me, guys, that just kind of sounds like a Band-Aid patch a little bit for the fuse box. Kind of leads me to believe that maybe they weren't able to fix that, couldn't figure out how to fix that, because it does seem like a good mechanic to have Johnny be able to turn off that fuse box so you can't make that phone call. They just went and removed it altogether. So it leads me to believe that maybe they couldn't fix that, but it is what it is. It's whatever. At least now it is fixed to where it's just not a useless, you know, animation of him turning off the fuse box. But ladies and gentlemen, like I said, there's other various bug fixes in here, very minor, you know, a lot of collision stuff. Of course, it's going to be good for quality of life of the game, but not going to go through all that. If you guys want to check that out, you can. I'll leave it down in the description below. But yeah, those are the patch notes, guys. It's a pretty beefy one, man. You know, they had a month to do it, so it's a pretty beefy patch coming tomorrow, of course, with the Hands outfit, the Maria outfit, and the Rush Week Halloween outfits, as well as the Gas Station Storm variant. I'm really, really excited about that. Check out our channel tomorrow, guys. We'll be streaming the Texas Chainsaw Massacre update, checking out all the cool stuff within the game. But yeah, with that said, guys, my name's Sergeant Moose. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys on the next one.